Hello guys, good day. Alright, so I hope all of you are doing well. Okay, so today we're gonna discuss all about the introduction to human-computer interaction. Okay, so let us learn what is human-computer interaction and what are the importance of the human-computer interaction. Right, so to proceed, let us go to our main objective of this discussion. Okay, so our objectives are the following. First, understand the importance of human-computer interaction. Define the user interface. Discuss the importance of a good design. And the last one is describe the importance of the user interface. Alright. So I hope at the end of this discussion, all of these objectives will be attained. Alright. So to proceed, let us go to our introduction. Okay. So the study between human or users and machine is known as human-computer interaction. Okay, also known as man-machine interaction or MMI, or computer-human interaction or CHI. All right. So from these words, when the user interacts into the machine, well, that is what we call human-computer interaction. Okay, but the thing is, how does a human interact to the machine or to the computer? Alright, so the human interact into the computer or a machine with the use of GUI or the graphic user interface. Alright, so without the GUI, we cannot interact the machine or a computer. It's because how are we going to see, okay, the outputs of the machine without seeing the GUI or human computer interaction? Okay, how are we going to manipulate the system without the graphic user interface? Okay, so that is why human computer interaction is focusing on what? On developing a better what? Graphic user interface to let the user interact properly into the what? Machine or the computer. Okay. So I want to tell you something. There are two types of application that we need to understand. First is the unreliable and complicated application. The second is a well-designed application. Okay, what are the difference between the unreliable or complicated application and the well-designed application? Okay, first, the unreliable or complicated applications are those applications that doesn't give what the exact or the standardized output. Okay, why is that happening? Okay, that will happen when the application doesn't have a better graphic user interface. Okay, it's because the user cannot interact properly into the machine. It's because the user maybe don't see properly the GUI or whatever the application inside the system. It's because of the bad design. There might some problems maybe in the graphics, okay, or the users don't know how to navigate the what graphic user interface. Okay, it's because it is blurry, or there might have confusing to the what to the content inside the graphic user interface. Okay, so that is the reason why it is being complicated or unreliable to the user. Alright. Second is well-designed application. What is a well-designed application? This application is the application that could give a better what output of the user. Okay, the GUI is clearly what give those specific what functions of the application. Okay, the user can easily read, easily navigate to the application. It's because it is very well designed. It is easily read to the user of the specific instruction to the specific function in the GUI. Okay, so that is why the user can give a better output on those specific application. Okay, all right, so those are the two different types of applications that we need to understand. Okay, it's because this is how human computer interaction help us think on the what, on the side of the user, which is going to, or which is the one who are going to interact into our system. Okay, we cannot interact the system properly when the application doesn't have a good or a better what, design of the GUI. Okay, so here is a question that we need to consider. Okay, why we should continue manufacturing applications that are unreliable? Okay, why do we need to continue manufacturing those applications? Complicated one, or more worstly is unusable, so we cannot use. It's because there are some developer which are continuing developing, or which are continued developing this kind of application. Okay, we don't know what are their purpose, but we can see this some. Okay, not all, but there are only some of those developer who don't see how important is the interaction between the user and the machine. Okay, despite today we have a lot of resources, okay, we can easily what, learn on how are going to create a better design on the GUI. Okay, designed on the interface and also on the screens. Okay, so there might have some reasons why are those specific developers doing this. Maybe they don't have, or they don't care what, they don't care the what, the emotion of the users when the user is what, when the user is using those applications, or maybe they don't possess common sense. Okay, so they just creating their application without having a common sense that the user cannot what, manipulate this properly. It's because of the bad design. Okay, another, we don't have time, or maybe they don't have time developing the GUI. Okay, so that is the reason why we need to understand this one. And lastly is still don't know what really makes a good design, or maybe they don't know how to create a better design for their system. Okay, so as a developer or as a programmer, we need to see to it that all of these things are being catered. Okay, we need to care for our users. Okay, why? It's because the users are the one who are going to what, use the system or application. Another, we need to possess a common sense. Okay, common sense that what if the user will use this application, how are they going to interact the system? Okay, is this useful to the user to make it easily for them to manipulate? Okay, we can easily make those application to let the user understand, okay, in one glance of seeing the GUI or the graphic user interface. Okay, we need to have time thinking of those better design that needs for what? The improvement of the GUI. Okay. Need a lot of time to improve the GUI in order to make the user what? Satisfied. Okay. And we need to what? Acquire a better knowledge on how are we going to design properly the GUI or the user interface. Okay. So that's why human-computer interaction is very important. It's because human-computer interaction teaching us how are we going to what? Develop a better graphic user interface. Okay. Let us proceed. HCI is a field that studies the design, okay, assessment, and application of interactive computing devices to human use. Okay. So, human-computer interaction studies how to make a better design, provide assessment, okay, assessment from the user or to the user. Okay. It's because if you are going to assess in this specific part, you will have a better output. Okay. One thing that we need to consider is when we develop a system, we need to see to it that we will get the feedback from the user. Okay. Why? It's because the feedback of the user are very important in developing the system. Okay. That is why we need to what? Conduct also a research which will make us a basis, okay, in making our system. Okay. We need to have a knowledge in designing a better system. Okay. Not just in the functionality but also in the graphic user interface. Alright. So that's how human-computer interaction is very important. Okay, let us go to the goal of HCI. What are the goals of HCI? First, to improve the interaction between user and computer. Yes, the goal of HCI is to improve the interaction between the user and the machine. Okay, by making computers more usable, okay, and receptive to the user's needs. Okay, so HCI what? Give more, okay, research on how to make the user or make the computer more usable to the user. Okay, and give whatever needs of the user. Okay, provide the needs of the user. Okay, so that the user will be satisfied in what? Interacting or using the system or application. Okay, to design system that minimize barrier between humans cognitive model. Okay, so HCI will what? Boast their capability in designing the system which makes or which eliminates those specific what? With specific what's this? Presumptions of the user which do not need, okay, to be in that specific area or in that specific system. Okay, so we need to understand how, okay, to create a system that minimize the barrier between the users. Okay, so just like for example a system that gives the users the specific output, but when it comes to the output there are some errors. Okay, so in that part, those are the specific barriers that we need to eliminate. Okay, so we need to see to it that whatever output that is being needed by the user, that will be attained. Okay, That is why HCI is boosting their capabilities in designing a system to minimize those specific what errors. Okay. Last one is accomplish and computer understand the user's task. Okay. So it should have to be accomplished what? A better output or a better interaction to the user and make the system understand what the user's what needs, okay, or task of the user. Alright, so that's the goal of HCI. Okay, so let us proceed. Importance of human-computer interaction. First, user-centered architecture is being increasingly important. Alright, so as of now, user is very important. Okay, that is why we need to consider always the what capacity of the user, which is the one who are going to interact in our system. Okay, it's because a lot of us now are using computers, are using gadgets. Okay, so that is why we need to have a user-centered architecture. Okay, we need to boost our knowledge to improve the interaction between the user and the computer. Alright, increasing competition by the HCI studies, Norman 1990, and become increasingly relevant today. So they used to what are the studies that they used to conduct before during 1990s? They used to study the interaction between the human each other. Okay, and that interaction, they want it to happen in the interaction between the human and the machine. Okay, before, without the technology, there are some kind of like for example ways in communicating to each other. Okay, in many years, people are interacting with the use of gestures. Okay, with the use of what some kind of, like for example, a fire or a smoke. Okay, when they see a smoke, that has a meaning to those specific person who can see it. If there are fires, so it has a meaning, okay, in that specific part. Okay, so that's how the people before communicate. They don't have a knowledge to talk. Okay, they just having a gesture, okay, in order to interact with each other, until such time that they used to interact using a language. Okay, but there are a lot of language in the world. Okay, so some are used to have two language, three language. Okay, or some they can understand one language or two language, but they don't how to speak some of it or one of it. They just understand, but they don't know how to or say it. Okay, so that's why people now are using to communicate with what, with a language. Okay, just like us here in the Philippines today. Okay, we used to interact with each other with the use of a language. Okay, to incorporate that one, they are studying a machine which can also interact with the user using a voice or sound. Okay, there are some application which is, if you are going to say something, the system will say it back to you also. So that is why HCI is improving the communication or the interaction between the human and the machine. Mm. They want to make the computer more visible in communicating to the user, same as how are we going to interact each other. Okay, that's what their what goal. Okay, so that the machine is more useful in communicating to the user. All right. Another one is investing in a transformation of a high expense. Okay, HCI is also investing what more expensive transformation. Okay, to have a better interaction between the computer and the user. Okay, and user. Okay, this one is to eliminate the user's time or wasting of time of the user. It's because user waste time with products with and services that are poorly designed. So HCI are used to eliminate this part. Okay, are used to eliminate those specific for poorly designed application. Okay, to have a better what? Better application which is useful to the user. Another one is to stop the using of poor graphic user interface. Okay, it's because before we used to have a graphic user interface which is more complicated. We cannot access the computer without the code. Okay, we always have a code to memorize in order to manipulate the system. Unlike here now today, we can only interact to the system with just one click. Okay, with the use of the mouse. Okay, which is selecting the what content in the graphic user interface. Okay, that's why HCI is very important. It's because they are the one. It is the one who make us think of a better what interaction between the human and the machine. All right. So I hope you will understand how HCI is important. Okay, let us proceed. Defining the user interface. Human-computer interaction is an area of research that includes user interface design. Yes. So human-computer interaction is studying on how to what give us a better interaction. Okay. Between the machine and the user. Okay, they used to what research in order to have a better design. Okay, so that is why we can really compare the GUI before and today. Okay, if you're going to see or going to go back to 90s 80s, they have a computer which is very complicated for us to understand, unlike here now today. Okay, that we can easily manipulate our computer. Okay, we don't have any problem. We don't see complicated things in what manipulating our computer. It's because HCI is providing us a better user interface. Okay, HCI is the research, preparation, and design of how human and machine collaborate to meet people's needs. Yes, HCI used to research, okay, and used to prepare, and also design to how you and human having a better what better interaction. Okay, so we see now we can manipulate our computer having a keyboard, having a mouse, having a monitor. But maybe until in the future, these parts will be gone. We can only manipulate easily to the system with the use of our voice, with the use of our gestures. Okay. Some other applications today are using gestures to interact. Okay. If you see artificial intelligence, that is the beginning of the evolution into a better application in the future. Okay. We don't need to exert more effort just to what? Just to manipulate our system. We can easily manipulate it with the use of our voice, with the use of our gestures. Okay, maybe in the future, when we are going to turn on our light, you just say, okay, lights on, and then the lights will turn on. You can see that now. You can research that now, if that is existing. It's because some of, or in the America, in the US, okay, they are using that technology today. Okay, it's because they are also advanced rather than us here in the Philippines. So they are more knowledgeable in developing those systems, and they are now using that one. Okay, so that is why they can easily manipulate their application with the use of gestures and the voice. Okay, and there are a lot more in the future. Okay, so we just don't notice that, but it is coming. Not today, but maybe in the following days. Okay, we can see cars flying in the future. Now we have a car which is auto drive. You don't need to drive anymore. Just say what is the location that you are going to select, and the car will drive you there. Okay, so that's how technology is evolving. Alright, next, as an HCI planner, there are things that we need to consider, or a number of things that we need to consider. First, what people desire and predict. Okay, so we need to consider this part, how the people desire and predict in a specific situation or in a specific problem. Okay, it's because that is very useful in developing the system, okay, or the user interface. Okay, if you are the one who are going to decide this thing, then this should have to meet. Alright, it's because people are used to acquire easy things to do. We don't want to do something which need us more effort just to do it. No, we want to do something which is easily for us to make. That's what people do. Okay, we don't want to exert more effort. Okay, we just want to be relaxed. Okay, even if we don't have something to eat. But there are some people which is don't want to work. It's because they don't want to be tired of doing something. So with the use of technology, that's why some people are becoming lazy. Okay, It's because things are being easy to acquired or to manipulate. Just like today, as a student, you don't need to go to the library just to flip those specific book or some books just to learn something. With just one search, internet will download or will give you the information. Okay. With if you have your assignments or if you have your projects, you can easily find a solution, find an answer with the use of the internet. It's because you have your computer. Okay. Next, physical shortcoming and capabilities. Okay. You should consider the capacity of your system. Okay. You should make sure that all of the expectation of your user will be met. Okay. Make sure to have a better output in order for the user to what in order for the user to be satisfied. Okay, eliminate those specific things that makes the user confused. Okay, eliminate those things that what people's want, okay, is not included in your system. Okay, make sure that all the users need will be in the system. Okay, how information management system function. Okay, you need to make sure that also how your system or information system function. Okay, in the specific field of your application. What people find fun. Okay, how does your user fun in using your application? Okay, or desirable in using your application. So you need to consider that one also, so that your user will be satisfied. And the lastly is the computer hardware and technical features. Okay, so you need to see to it that the computer hardware is met with the needs of your software. Okay, both software and hardware are balanced in order to make your system more functional. Okay, give specific feature in the system. Alright, in order to eliminate confusion. Confusion on how does the user use this application. Okay, since the application is making this output or that output, but instead this application is not helping to provide that output. Okay, so you need to make sure that one also. Alright, so that's how are we going to define the user interface. So we need to understand properly in designing the user interface, or in order for the user to interact or to have a better interaction into the system. Alright, the user interface is the part of computer and its software that can people see or hear, touch, talk, or otherwise understand or direct. Okay, user interface is part of the computer, which is very important to make the user manipulate into the system. Okay, that's how important user interface is. There are two components of interface: input and output. Okay, input is how human tells the machine what or he wants with the use of the parts of the computer. Just like, for example, keyboard, mouse, okay, headset, speaker, or microphone. Okay, and some other is the finger sensing or touch screen. Okay, so how are you going to give input to the user? You are going to give input to the user when you type something using the keyboard, okay, selecting something using the mouse, okay, giving instruction using the microphone. Alright, that's how are you going to give input to the system. What about the output? The output refers to the machine communicates to the user. Okay, so the output makes us understand, okay, the result of our input. Okay, just like for example, we are calculating our monthly allowance. Okay, you're going to use your calculator to calculate that one, and the result will give the computer will give you the result in order for you to understand that, oh, okay, this is how my allowance is being what spent. Alright, so that's an example of output. The computer give us an output which make us understand how the things are going, how the things are possible um, to use in order for us to provide what? A decision. Okay, that's an output. Next, in GUI design or graphic user design, the user of the human sense of smell and touch output performance is still largely unexplored. Okay, so smell and touch are as an output is unexplored yet. Okay, so maybe there are some reasons why, okay, we don't know yet, but if you want to discover this one, so we can start it now. Okay, if you really want to discover, it's because if you want to discover the useful of smell and touch as an output, then you will be one of the what? You will be one of the what's this? Person who will discover and will be known in the world. Okay, using the smell and touch as an output performance. Alright, so much for that. Let's go to the proper interface design will provide a combination of well-designed input and output processes. Yes, so the well-designed interface has a combination of input, properly input or well-designed input, and also a well-designed output. Alright, so that's how a proper interface design is. The best user interface is one that goes unnoticed, okay, allowing the user to concentrate on the information and the task at hand rather than processes that display and the information and execute the task. Okay, so that's how interface is. Okay, so let's proceed. The importance of a good design. Okay, with today's technology and tools and our motivation to create really effective and usable interface and screens, why do we continue to produce systems that are insufficient and confusing, or worse, just plain unusable? Okay, so it goes back how we need to understand in making the system. Okay, that's because we have a lot of what tools, technologies that we can use in order to provide a better system. But the question is, why do we continue producing those systems that is not useful? Okay, which gives the user confusion on how to use it. Okay, so starting today, we need to make our systems better. We need to make our applications better. We do not need to create a system without having any sense. Okay. We don't have any reasons to do that. Why? It's because we have a lot of resources. We can easily search, we can easily discover things. Okay. So we need to have a care in order to do that. We need to possess a sense, a common sense to do that. And we need also to have a time to develop. Most importantly, we need to have a knowledge to design a better output. Alright. That's the importance of a good design. Okay. Yet we never seems to have enough time to figure out. It's because some of the other developers are not practicing properly. Okay, on how are we going to handle things in designing the interface. Alright. After all, plenty of us other have another responsibilities than creating user interface and displays. Yes. But even if we have a lot of responsibilities, rather than creating interface, well-designed interface, we just don't forget that the user is the one who are going to use the system. So that is why we need to have time in order to develop it. Okay. If you are one of the user, what are the feelings, or what is your feeling using the system or application looking up like this? Okay. So is this application more useful to you or more irritating? Right? It's because this system is not very well designed, okay, compared to this one. So as one of the systems developer or the junior application developer, you need to see to it that your system or application is very well designed in order to make the user help, okay, or in order to make the user satisfied in using your application. Okay. Remember, always see to it that the user meets its expectation. Okay. Have feedback to the user in order for us to develop more accurately and more satisfying to the user. It's because whatever they need, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to design in order to make the user satisfied. Okay. I hope you will understand. Alright. Next, the importance of the user interface. Our user plays a high value in a well-designed GUI and a screen. Yes, very well. The user is the very first thing that we need to consider to develop our GUI or screens. Okay. It is their window into the system's capability. Yes. It is also means by which several important tasks are addressed. This activity frequently have the significant effect on the company's relationship as well as its profitability. Okay. If the company doesn't have a well-designed application, what will happen to this company? They will probably down. Right? It's because the user cannot provide exact or standard output. It's because the application doesn't have the well-designed interface into it. Okay. The structure and appearance of screen have a number of effects on the individuals. Of course, as a user, you as a user, you will really understand how are you going to see it, how are you going to use it if the system doesn't have a well-designed application. Okay, you know the feeling on how to use the application which do not meet the needs that you want. Alright, people would have more trouble with their work and will make more mistakes if they are confusing and inefficient. Yes, of course. How can you work properly if the system doesn't have a well-designed interface? Right? This might give you headache. Okay. This might give you anger. Why the company give you this application to help your work? You might consider making your work manually rather than using that application which do not help your what work. Alright, so that's why interface or user interface is very important. Developing the specific, more elegant, more well-designed interface is very important in order for us to do work better. Okay, the benefits of a good design. Okay, let us go to this first phase. Screen users were required to spend additional second per screen due to poor visibility. I know you already encountered this one. Lagging application. It always load. It takes you more time to open one application. Okay, you really probably encounter this one. To process both screens, it will take you nearly another year. Alright, your time will end just to open this application. Okay, if you are in the cafe station and you're using this application, do not expect that your time will not over until you open it. Okay, it's because this is a poorly designed application. A 20-second increase in screen time ads. Okay, there are a lot of advertisement and also in that application, so we don't want to use this application, period. It's because this takes us more time. Okay, so what the good design specifically saying this is that we need to make more make more for example, making an application which is smoothly responds to the query that you want. Okay, it's because we don't want to do this. Okay, we don't want to make the application that we open load until an hour has gone. Okay, so you better create a system which doesn't have this kind of problem. Alright, next, for several years the advantage of well-designed screen have been studied in the lab. Okay, HCI is studying those those well-designed screen in order for us to interact better to the system. Okay, and that's why a good design is very important to implement. Okay, by rendering windows less crowded, yes, so you don't need to make your windows very crowded, which in one glance, you will irritate. It's because there are a lot of what displays in your screen. So we better have the less crowded window. Okay, so this is the benefits. One study, for example, tried to increase screen brightness and readability. Okay, so we can adjust the brightness of our screen. It's like in our cell phone, we can adjust the brightness if you want to make dim or brighter, so we can adjust easily. This is an example of a good design. Second, separate objects that had previously been grouped together on the same display line. Save space were now displayed on the separate lines. Yes. So as you can see in our cell phone, you can really see this kind of display. Okay, so we can what? We can segregate. Okay, we can arrange the application that we need. Okay, in the what? In the screen, in order for us to have a better display. Second, as a result, consumer of this less crowded version of the screen were around 20% more productive. Of course, it's because this will not makes you irritate, unlike those screens which load in an hour, which also gives you what? Anger seeing those specific application which do not makes you more what? Useful into that system. Okay, it's because the system is not very well designed. So in this particular part, so this will give us more what? Interaction to the user. We can easily do our work. It's because the system is very well active and very well designed. Okay, so that's the good design, or the benefits of the good design. Alright, so I hope you will understand. Okay, information on displays that is formatted correctly has a substantial positive impact on the result. Yes, of course. So there are positive impact if we have a good design compared to the system that doesn't have a well-designed interface. The usability advantage of well-designed web pages have also been routinized in recent years. Yes. So if you can see, the web design today are very well designed. Okay, but we can encounter some application or some web that doesn't have a better design. Okay, so in the following topics that we have in the HCI, I can give you specific application which makes you see the difference between the well-designed application and the not well-designed application. Alright, for now, let us understand the importance, okay, on how are you going to create a well-designed application and a well-designed user interface. Okay, screen training time is minimized, training expenses are reduced. Of course, if you have a well-designed system, you don't need to what? Exert more time and effort just to train those specific user. Okay, they can easily learn the system. They can easily learn manipulating the application. Okay, since fewer assist calls are needed, helpless costs are reduced. Of course, if you have a better designed application, then there are no questions raised from the user. It's because they already know how to navigate, they already know how to use the system easily. Okay, and that makes the company less cost to the helpline. It's because if your system doesn't have a well-designed interface, from time to time, user will ask you information on how to use your application, how to navigate your application. Alright, that's the very important thing that we need to consider. Okay, employee productivity rises as a result or lower levels of annoyance and anger. Yes, so productivity increased. Okay, those angers, okay, those annoyance will be eliminated. Okay, or less. Okay, so that's the effect if you have a good design. The lastly is, in the end, it is the clients of the company that profit from the better service. Yes, so if you have a good application or system, so the what's this, the client or the user will give a better output, okay, and give a better service into the company. Alright, so that is why good design is very important. Alright, okay, what else? Okay, so I think we're done for the first set of our discussion. So let us now go to our first assessment. Okay, so our assessment number 1. Okay, so we have here 5 questions. If you, in your own understanding, describe the importance of HCI. Okay, second, what do you think is the reason why we need to have a good design? Okay, third, what are the benefits of having a good design in the GUI? Fourth, discuss the 2 components of a user interface. And lastly, write a summary about the lessons that we have discussed. Alright? Okay, so after you answer these questions, you're going to give your output below this activity. Okay, so send your output in our LMS. Alright, okay, so let us now proceed to the second topic. Okay, the second topic is all about the brief history of human-computer interface. Okay, so let us understand the human-computer interface. For the history, how the human interact to each other before. Okay, so here, humans have needed to talk with one another since we first walked into this planet. Of course, how are we going to interact with each other without having communication, right? So we need to communicate in order to give us what we want to express into someone. Alright. Movements and expressions are the most basic and widely used means of communication. This is the first part or thing as a human before. So they used to have movements and expressions, or somehow is gestures, just to communicate to each other. Okay, maybe they don't know how to talk before. That is why they used to have movements or expressions. Alright. Second, language independent movements and gestures enable people who do not speak the same language to communicate with one another. Okay, so example, I am a Filipino, then you are a Japanese. How am I understand what you're talking about? Right? So in order for us to communicate to each other, we can use gestures. Okay, gestures or movements, so that you will understand what I am saying. What I am saying to you. Alright, it's because I don't know how to translate your language. I don't know what your language is all about. Okay, So that is why we can communicate to each other in a movement or a gestures. So this is also very helpful to those people, special people that doesn't know how to talk and can't hear also. Okay, so this is one of the uh, effective communication to those person. All right, most people can speak one language, some two or more. A spoken language is a very efficient mode of communication if both parties to the communication understand it. Yes, so this is widely used in today's generation. Okay, we used to talk in a spoken language, so that is why we have a universal language, which is an English. Okay, so with the use of that, we can talk to each other. Even if you are Chinese, if you understand how to talk, if you understand English, then we can communicate to each other. If you also know how to talk in English, all right. Or if you are a Muslim or whatever uh, kind of people, as long as you understand and you know how to talk using English, so we can communicate to each other. All right. So that's the very important thing in the communication. That's why human computer interaction is what having a what research on how people communicate to each other, because they want to implement kind of what this kind of interaction into the machine and the user. They want to implement this one so that the machine will be more interactive to the user. Alright, that's why they used to have a research. They used to study how the human interact with each other. Alright, the next higher level in terms of universality and complexity is spoken language. Yes, the majority of the people can communicate at least one language, with other being able to communicate two or more. If all parties to the conversation understand it, spoken language is very effective form of communication. Yes, written language is the third and most complex degree of complexity. Why? Okay, this is the third way of communication, written language. But they said this is also most complex degree of complexity. Okay, it's because you need to what make sure that your grammar, okay, is correct. There are parts of the written language that you need to know in order for you to communicate. Okay, so that is why it is being complex. Okay, there have some degrees that you need to consider in writing, okay, a letter. Okay, it's because there are a lot of things that you need to understand. Okay, so not just writing something just to express what you feel, but you need to consider also the format on how are you going to write that letter. Okay, so while the majority of the people can chat, not everyone can write. Yes, so today we don't need to write, okay, manually. We can easily type what we want to say as a word. Okay, because we have computer, we have now the keyboard to use in order for us to type. Okay, so unlike before, we always used to have a ball pen just to write a one page of letters. Okay, but now we can easily type, open a Microsoft Word, type the letter. Okay, so it is simpler than before, and that's how peoples do. Peoples find a way to make their work what easier and faster. Okay, that is why people is building a machine or a computer to help the what the work that is more what that is more workable before rather than today. Alright, so if we are going to call our relatives, we just don't need to write letter and send it to the post office. No, we can easily open our Facebook, type the name, search the name, and call. And also you can chat. That's how easy it is today. Alright, so this is the reason that HCI is knowing this kind of communication between the user or between the people or each uh, people, how these people communicates, because they want to implement this communication, this kind of communication, or the way of communication they have. They want to implement this one into the machine. Alright, so that the machine is more effective in communicating the user and vice versa. Alright, so that is why that is why today we can easily communicate. Alright, during the first few decades of its existence, a computer's ability to cope with human communication was inversely proportional to how convenient it was for humans to do. Yes, of course. So this is because they implemented those specific communication into the machine, into the computer. Okay, so that the computer is more interactive to the user. Alright, the machine required static type input through keyboard. People replied slowly and with differing degrees of ability while using the system. Alright, so the only difference is machine cannot think, machine cannot give decision. Alright, only the peoples do. Okay, why? It's because machine doesn't have the brain to think, unless if the machine will be reprogrammed as what the peoples do. Okay, so that's the only difference. The computer taste were mirrored in the human-computer dialogue, which consisted of one or a mixture of types using keyboard, such as command language, questions and answers, menu collections, functions, keys, selections, and form fill in. Okay, so computer is not working without parts, so that is why computer will only work if this specific part is in the computer. Alright, so it's left for the keyboard for typing. Okay, what else? The command language. Okay, question and answer, menu collection, menu collection, function key, selections, and form fill in. Alright, we cannot communicate with the computer without the parts. Okay, unless in the future we can communicate without these parts, keyboard and the mouse. So because we can only we can use our language just to talk to the computer, and the computer will respond also. Okay, so that's how communication between the computer and the user is evolving. Okay, and this will probably evolve in the future in a better way. Okay, better way compared today. Alright, many human-computer interaction approaches that use more common, widespread, and easier to learn capabilities such as speech and handwriting have been developed with differing degrees of success in the computer's history. Yes, it's because we can easily write or type what are we going to type in the computer. Okay, we can also use our speech to talk to the computer. Okay, so just like for example an application which whatever you say, the computer will say it back to you. Okay, that is one of the communication that is being implemented now in the computer. Alright, so no wonder in the future the computer will respond in its way to respond your questions or query. Okay, it's because HCI is what? Doing his best to make the computer more interactive to the user. Okay, human speech and handwritten recognition system are now available. Yes, of course. Human speech is now recognized by the computer. Handwritten is now recognized also. Okay, so no wonder that computer will always make its way. Oh no, computer will evolve. It's because of its CI. Okay, next, the introduction of the graphical user interface. The mouse, the pointing, and the picking in the main human-computer interface tool were adopted by Xerox System Altus and the Star. Okay, so mouse and pointing are the things that is what adopted by the Xerox System Altus and the Star. Okay, they are also using mouse and pointing, also picking, okay, to interact. Using the mouse as an interpreter, the user simply pointed at the phone or computer. This application have implemented the graphical user interface or GUI as we know it today, or ushering of a new era of human-computer interaction. Alright, so that is why today we are using the keyboard and the mouse just to what? Point something, or use this mouse to navigate the application inside our GUI or the graphic user interface. Alright, so brief history of the screen design. So before, our design is look like this. So we cannot see any other application here inside the screen. It's because most of the thing inside the application or in the monitor is the text. We cannot see icons, okay, which is in the monitor. What we see is only this kind of display. Okay, and this is not a well organized one. Okay, as you can see here, so the line is not really organized. Okay, so we have here a command. What is the purpose of the command? So when you use the computer before, you need to have a command in order to do manipulate. If you did not memorize the command, then you cannot use the computer. So that is why people those days are used to memorize the codes in order to manipulate the computer. If they forgot the code, then they need to read again the manual on how to manipulate the computer. Alright, that's how hard it is before. It's because the interface or the interaction between the machine and the user before are not very well designed, unlike today. Okay, so all the engineers have been developing delays since the first cathode ray tube monitor was connected to a device. It wasn't until the early 1970s, that more mainstream interest in the application of good design concept to screens began to emerge. Okay, so when the IBM unveiled its 3270 cathode ray tube text-based terminal. Okay, so those monitor which has a back Okay, nasa cube sa likod. So those are the examples of this kind of display or monitors. Okay, so those monitors are what they are using before. So the display is look like this one, very complicated. Alright, it was visually cluttered, and it always had a command field that required the user to recall what had to be typed into. Yeah, to decode ambiguous text, alright, it was often necessary to consult a textbook. So imagine how difficult it is. They cannot easily delete if they what if they have the what problem, or uh, uh, they accidentally type a word which is not in the content. Okay, so in order to erase those words, so they need to decode, and to decode they used to have a textbook for a guide on how to decode or how to delete that word. Okay, so make sure that you don't have a mistake in typing the words. It's because if you missed, then you might have a problem decoding that one if you have your text if you don't have your textbook. It's because that's the way on how they decode the text or how to delete the text. Okay, using this type of screen effectively took a lot of practice, yes, and patience. So the majority of early screens were monochromatic with green text and black backgrounds. Okay, so imagine. So unlike today, so we have a 3D design interface and the output. So we can clearly see what is in the monitor. Alright, we have a design. Okay, so we love to use computer because we see the things inside, how we see things inside. Okay, especially if you're going to play a game. Alright, next, at the turn of the century, text-based screen design instructions were eventually made, okay, readily available, and many displays started to take on much less cluttered appearance thanks to ideas like grouping and arrangement of objects. So here they use now the groupings. Alright, so unlike in the previous picture, so that is the display that doesn't have a properly organized one. So here, so they used to organize the text now with the use of groupings and arrangement of objects. So just like this one, so they can see the text here, they can read now, unlike in the previous. Okay, so it's like, for example, renter, then they are going to write their name, telephone. Alright, so organized na siya. Alright, user memory was aided by simple and meaningful field captions, as well as the display of command on the screen and their application using function keys. Alright, so messages become better as well. Alright, so they improve on the display, alright, on the interface of the computer. However, these displays were not completely free of clutter. Of course, it's because they just only use the groupings, alright, and arrangement. Alright, so instructions and warnings to the user had to be written in the form of prompts or completion aids like the codes PR and CR in the keyboard. So they used to have a key code. Okay, to what? To prompt in the users. Alright. So borders were added to visually boost groupings. Okay, so they used to have a borders. And control keys were replaced in the buttons and menus for executing commands. So they use as a as to manipulate the previous slide display. They used to have a commands. Okay, but now they used to have menus and buttons in order to execute the commands. Alright, just like for example this one. So as you can see, it is now very organized. Okay, so they have the buttons here, so they don't need to type the command, alright, or the codes to execute this one, to save these files, or to retrieve or to edit these files. Okay, so there were also a variety of elements properties available in the font size and shape lines and thickness of the color. Alright, so these are the borders that they used. Okay, and the content is inside it. Okay, so it is now clearly organized, and it is not being very cluttered also. It's because all the things are being aligned. Okay, so they improve and improve the interface of the screen. Alright, until such time that we have the kind of interface that make us happy. Okay, completion age is replaced by one of the latest listing control on display screen. Also could also be streamlined with much more powerful computer capable of presenting a new screen easily. Okay, in the 90s, our understanding of what makes a good screen design grew ever farther as the new century dawned. The consequence of ever-improving technology was even greater advance in the user interface, a user computer screen experience. Alright, so in today's evolution, so nowadays, from electromechanical solution for text display to all electronics machine capable of full motion, so we have now 3D color graphics display. Alright, so electrically powered display device have progressed. Okay, the earliest model, which used the solenoid coil to manipulate transparent flag or flap, was used for text display. Okay, so they converted the the solenoid coil into the text display, and what they used to display on the screen image is the 3D colors. Alright, so they use LCD, TFT, LEDs, and OLEDs. Alright, so LCD is liquid crystal display, and TFT is the thin film insulator, and the OLEDs is, what is OLEDs? I forget the OLEDs. Here, organic light emitting diode display. Alright, so this is now our display. So we can clearly see the image. Okay, we can clearly see the pictures in the monitor. This is now the cell phones that we have. Okay, so cell phones are using active matrix OLED or AMOLED. Alright, so that's how HCI is improving the interface of the computer in order for the user to be interactive to the user. Alright, so next is graphic systems advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so these are the advantages and disadvantages. First, the advantage is symbol recognize faster than text. Alright, so usually if we see symbol, we can easily recognize that one. What does that mean? Okay, faster learning. Alright, faster use and problem solving. Okay, easier to remember, foster more concrete thinking. Yes, fewer errors, increased feeling of control. Okay, we can also have immediate feedback. Okay, predictable system responses, early reversible actions, less anxiety concerning use, and more attractive. All right. So this is now the advantage of the graphic system in today's technology. All right. Next is disadvantage, greater design complexity. All right. So there might have some complexity if there are greater design. Okay. Learning still necessary, of course. We need to learn also, especially those specific person uh, that is not very aware on the technology. Okay, or doesn't have the concrete knowledge in the technology. Next, use of printing device may also have to be learned. Alright, of course. Okay, by the use of mouse, how are they going to use the mouse, use the keyboard? Alright. Window manipulation requirements. Okay. Production limitation, inefficient for expert users. When we say inefficient for expert users, because user is already know, okay, especially those programmers or the developers that is the one who are developing the system. It is sufficient for them to learn that specific system. Okay, but most importantly is the user. Okay, the user will learn the system. It's very important. The user learning the system is very important. All right. May consume more screen space. Huh? All right. So some other application might consume more screen or space. All right. It depends on the display. Hardware limitations. Yes. So there are limitations on the hardware. That is really makes sense. It's because not everything inside the system is intact. Okay, there might have a limitation, especially in on the display. Okay, on the storage. Okay, so this is one of the this is also the disadvantage. All right, so as an IT, so maybe you need to consider how are you going to uh, what acquire this knowledge in order for us to eliminate these disadvantages. All right, so maybe advantages may apply for those specific person that is not in their perspective of learning. All right, so as an IT, so we used to what we used to learn the system, or we used to learn programs. All right. Okay, so I think we we are done in our discussion. So this is our last discussion. So let us now go to our assessment 2. So what do you think is the relevance of discussing the history of human-computer interaction into this lesson? All right. In the evolution of human-computer interface, what do you think is the reason why they need to improve the graphic user interface of the user? In what particular reason? Okay, from the advantage of graphic system, pick at least 3 disadvantage and discuss it. Right. The last one, from the disadvantage of the graphic system, pick at least 3 again and discuss it also. All right. Okay, so answer these questions and send your output in our LMS. Okay, so send your output or upload your output in the assessment 2. Alright, or you can write your output in the submission comments of this assessment number 2. Alright, so thank you for listening. So our next topic is all about obstacle and pitfalls in development path. Alright, so we have here the references in this discussion. So we have HCI lecture, note by B. Pravalica, and Human Computer Interaction, third generation by Alan Dix and Janet Finlay. Alright. So thank you so much guys for watching this video. Alright. So I hope you learned something for this discussion. Okay. So please take care always and God bless us all. Bye bye.